Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Vaughn Lane. I'm your host, Blake Monroe. I'm joined every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. As always, tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, and get those questions in. We'll get to a lot of those later on in the show, and we got a lot to talk about as well. But I want to start, guys, with something that kind of made the rounds on social media yesterday, a stat regarding, drop rate when it comes to wide receivers, passes dropped by receivers. And they did a big group of, some of the top quarterbacks last season. Well, look at this. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Arch Manning, 8.1%. Now, for those listening, you can compare that to Julian Sand, 2%, Fernando Mendoza, 2.2%. We got, 10 or 11 guys up here, but curious to get y'all's thoughts on this.
Well, I think it's goes to a little bit of what we talked about as a shortcoming of the offense a year ago. I mean, they worked themselves into trouble as much as they worked themselves out of it. And some of that was drops, certainly by the wide receivers. 8.1% drop. I mean, what did Arch end up with from a completion rate? Low 60s, I think, Jerry.
Yeah.
He gets 8% caught. All of a sudden, he's at 70. He looks pretty darn good. Obviously, some people are going to all get it caught. I think that Mendoza and Sayin and their drop rate speak a lot to the ability of their wide receivers. Last year, Mendoza clearly had two elite wide receivers and the third one that came on late as well, that all are going to be NFL players. Sayin obviously had one of the best wide receiver cores in the country, not just with Carnell Tate, but also Jeremiah Smith and others. But I look at that, Jerry, and it's really about the ability for Texas to perhaps have some room to improve in 2026. Obviously, someone like Coleman Cam Coleman will have an effect on this. And I think that, you talk about a contested catch rate like he has of above 65, 70%. And that looks a lot better for Texas. I mean, Texas didn't just need a big-time receiver. They need a big-time reliable receiver, if that makes sense. They didn't just need someone to take the top off. They need someone on 3rd and 6. And I think that that's what they went out and addressed with Cam Coleman. They may have addressed it even with Sterling Burkhalter to a lesser degree, right, Jerry, in the backup ranks. But this 8.1%, the three guys, DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo, and Parker Livingston, two of them, of course, now no longer with the Longhorns, all had key drops during the year. And that's something that Texas needs to clean up in 2026.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that go into this that are interesting when looking at last year and then looking ahead to this year. Or ideally, I think, look, that 2 and 2.2, that's dreamland. Ideally, you want to be in that between 4 and 5%. I mean, look, if you get anything above that, you've had one of the great seasons. But the reality is these are still college football players. They may be paid, some of them like pros, but they're still college football players. It's not 6 pro wide receivers and tight ends and running backs running around. So if you can be between 4 and 5, I think that's a pretty good place to be, especially against the schedule Texas is going to be playing, because they're going to play against really good players. I think they're getting Cam, but one of the things that I think is going to help here, I think they're getting Cam Coleman at the right time. All these guys have drops early in their career. Jeremiah Smith had 2 against Texas last year in the breadbasket drops. Cam Coleman's had his share, has had some drops at Auburn. Of course, how many were actually really good passes from Auburn quarterbacks? So he's in some tough situations, but he also had some drops. All these young receivers do. I think if Texas can sit between 4 and 5%, that's a really good place to be next year, because again, they're going to play against really good players on this schedule. So it's going to be a lot of contested situations, and none of these guys are going to be perfect. And I think we'll keep looking at this a little bit tomorrow. We're going to look at Arch's percentage of passes, catchable passes. And I think once we look at that tomorrow, it's really, gets into just what's the opposite of clicking on offense. And whatever that is, that's where Texas was last year. because there were too many uncatchable passes. There were too many drop passes. There were too many penalties. I mean, and they all came at a lot of them came at drive killing time.
I want to say this. That's where they were early last year. It's not where they ended last year. I mean, they scored 40. They scored 40 plus against Michigan,
and they had like multiple drops in that game too.
Yeah, yes, but there weren't like poor passes. There weren't like miscues. They weren't jumping off sides. I mean, I think that my take on that comment by you, Jerry, is not that you're entirely wrong, because first 6 games of the year, you're entirely right. I think that it dismisses the idea that they actually got better as the year went on as an offense. Georgia, even against Georgia, Jerry, they moved the ball. They just didn't domino, right? I mean, I think you and I would agree that they improved. The point that still gets me is that they were still plagued by drops late in the year, even against Michigan.
And those 2 or 3 gimme passes that were missed almost every single game. Like, I don't think that got 100% better. And I think for Arch to be the number 1 pick of the draft, that's going to have to improve for him next year. And I do think it will.
Right. Okay. I don't know about 1 or 2. I would give you 1. I don't know that it went down from a high level, to your point, against San Jose State, where, look, I mean, he just missed people, to where against Michigan, if he missed a little behind somebody or something. I would say that. Look, the other piece, and you mentioned this, goal setting, Jerry, the goal setting of 4 to 5%.
Yeah,
I think you're right. That's realistic. It's clear that 4 through 6% is realistic for Texas to try to account for this year. That 2% range, that's either going to take a highly more accurate passer or receivers that are 4th-year seniors that don't ever drop anything.
Yeah.
And that's what to me, that's what Indiana had. Yeah. Indiana had adult, old receivers that didn't drop anything for any reason whatsoever. And maybe one of the reasons they won the national championship. But I agree with you from a goal setting standpoint, 4 to 6%.
Yeah. I mean, and so you look at, Texas has the talent this year. We all know that. Now we start looking, okay, if this number is 4.7% next year, they make a huge jump.
Huge.
If Arch's completable passes percentage goes up 5-6% next year, huge jump. If your penalties go from 135 in the country, if you made an Ole Miss jump, Ole Miss went from 118th in penalties in 2024 to 54 in 2025. That's a massive jump, and yes, Trinidad Chambliss had clutch gene, but probably at the end of the day, why they ended up having the season they had. They played much more disciplined football. If you just get those 3 things, Texas is going to go more than a round in the college football playoff after that. So who knows what happens. But if you got those 3 things and nothing else, Texas is a college football playoff team and likely wins a game or 2, and you never know what happens after that. But I think those are going to be some things to look back on a year from now. And if you're setting goals, my goal is a 4.5% drop rate. We'll look at the other tomorrow. And then I'd love to finish around 60, 65 in penalties per game. Because I think if Texas does that, while it only will look like a penalty and a half a game, those things add up big. I mean, I wrote something on Texas football. I looked at the penalties. What teams made the biggest jump in penalties from 24 to 25? Meaning they had way too many penalties. They were ranked way up in the hundreds, and then they dropped the most significantly. Those 2 teams were Alabama, who dropped 2.9 penalties a game from 24 to 25, and Ole Miss. The other one that made a big jump was Indiana, but they were already good, right? They just made the jump into the top 5 or 6 from like 35 in that range. But Alabama and Ole Miss made dramatic jumps. And without those dramatic jumps, they don't make the playoffs, in my opinion.
Well, we're going to further this wide receiver talk here in just a moment. But first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Vaughn Lane this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that. Guys, Vaughn Lane let me ask you something. Let's just start there. When did flying become a game of how much extra can we charge you? Seat assignments, extra. Bags, extra. A little leg room, you guessed it, extra. Some airlines won't even give you a seat assignment on their lowest fare until you check in. And if you want to choose where you sit, you could be paying $80 or more on top of your ticket. It's exhausting. That's why I want to tell you about Vaughn Lane. No hidden fees, no check bag charges, no TSA. You board at a private hotel terminal, take your seat in a first-class cabin with only 22 seats, and everything is included: Wi-Fi, snacks, drinks, hot towel service, and complimentary meals on select trips. Plus, Vaughn Lane runs on Starlink internet, unlike Bobby Burton. So you can actually get work done on or stream something without that spinning wheel of death you get on a plane at times. They've also added more departures between Houston and San Antonio and between Fort Worth and Austin, giving you even more flexibility. Vaughn Lane connects Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, Nashville, Memphis, Atlanta, and Knoxville. Head to vaughnlane.com and enter code OTF26 at checkout for $20 off your first ride. Vaughn Lane, elevated regional travel with good internet.
Hey, I got a business idea because Cisco says, can Vaughn Lane take me to – it may be time for me to get an OTF van.
Will you be the driver?
I will run people to Florida for sure. Because I can stop at schools on the way.
Oh, goodness.
I can run it bi-weekly.
All right, so we talked about wide receiver drops, but let's go the opposite end of that and look at some wide receiver greats here, guys. You got 10 names up on here, the top 10 Texas receivers by career receiving yards. I mean, just phenomenal list up here. But my question to you guys is, in the day of the portal, who could join or even break the top 10?
This goes back to Bob Shipley's discussion, Bobby, is like, if Cam Coleman went out and had a Roy Williams type of season, where does he rank? Because he's not going to be there. And statistically, what if he went out and won the Heisman? Something crazy happened. That's interesting. But I think the only guy next year that has a chance to enter the stat conversation is Ryan Wingo, Bobby. And I actually think there's a receiver on this roster that's going to end up in the top 7. Maybe.
You're talking about Jermaine Bishop, most likely.
I'm predicting Jermaine Bishop.
Yeah, well, I mean, that depends whether or not Ryan Wingo comes back for an additional year, most likely too. Now, Jerry, if Wingo has 2 years available, right? But the thing with Ryan Wingo's currently at 1,300 yards, just to give you get everyone a gauge of where he's at currently. So he has an outside shot to enter the top 10 this year if he has a 1,000-yard receiving season. Steve Sarkisian has done that before at Alabama and elsewhere, but we'll see if he can get that done this year. I still think that Wingo's set for a big year. I think we can tie Wingo's production, though, back to the previous discussion about drop passes.
Yeah.
He was chief among them in 2025, was he not? I mean, DeAndre Moore dropped a couple. Parker Livingston dropped a couple, but Wingo is the one that seemed to have a more consistent issue.
Yeah.
And now he did have an injured thumb. He had off-season surgery. Came back slowly for spring ball because of that. But if he can still, in the one thing that gives me some hope for him to be able to eclipse this is that he is a yard eater in the short game. I mean, Sark went to him 6 straight games, first play of the game, and he ate some yards up. Did he not? I mean, he really did. So I do think that there's an outside shot here with Wingo to get into this top 10 because he literally has the speed and the size to break that first tackle. And Sark has found ways to get him involved. I think Sark knows what Ryan Wingo's strengths are. And so how he uses him opposite not only Cam Coleman, but Emmett Mosley, Jermaine Bishop, and the other pieces of the puzzle here, along with the running backs, it'll be interesting to see if Wingo actually is that guy that, because of his ability to run after the catch, everybody remembers the start of the Vanderbilt game, right? The start of the Mississippi State game, even. He had big plays in that little short screen. I thought the Georgia one was going to go for 40 or 50 yards as well if he didn't get turf toe, right? The turf monster didn't catch him. And so I think that's one that we need to watch for. But individual seasons, right? Where is Cam Coleman, to your point, Jerry, going to rest? And this is a career receiving one. And I'm not sure Roy Williams, in this day and age of the portal, will ever be caught.
No, I don't think so. But I don't think so because, again, and guys play 3 years now. Would Roy have actually stayed 4 if he was a guy today? That's the question. Alfio Vizzi had a comment on that in the chat, but would he have today? Maybe. He loved college in a different way, but I'm not sure that happens as much anymore, man. In college, in football, basketball, it's just not. The guys stay for the NIL, but I'm not sure they stay because they love college like they used to, right? But now they're getting paid, so that gives them incentive to stay. So I'm not sure that happens. I think somebody asked up in the chat, over under 500 yards from scrimmage for Jermaine Bishop. I'm going over. I think Bishop is the guy. That has a chance to have an Xavier Worthy type career. Won't be that much.
Does that count? When you count over under yards from scrimmage, Jerry, does that count the return game or no?
No, no.
You're talking about just scrimmage, whether it's
rushes and catches.
That's funny.
That's 40 yards a game for a guy that talented. It's not that much. 45 yards a game to go over 500.
It is. If you look at it that way, it's not. I just wonder if he's going to get the touches. Like, one of the strange things, I was talking to Hank about this a couple weeks ago, Hank South, and he was like, my over and under for catches for Bishop is 35. I don't know if people realize how many catches that is.
Yeah.
I mean, that would put him number 3 probably ahead of Mosley and ahead of the running backs as a receiver. And that's a significant number. I'm going to go. If you were asking me today where I would go under that 500. Now, if you're asking me also, Jerry, do I think that he has a chance to enter this all-time top 10 list? I'm going to sit on your side of the fence a little bit more. You know what I mean? So it's intriguing.
Yeah. What'll be interesting, and that is the biggest issue, is there's one football and a lot of mouths on this team. I kind of
a lot of good mouths, by the way.
Yeah. But what I lean on with that is, and I know we talked about it a lot with him because what we were hearing, but what I saw at the spring showcase, air quotes for the podcast people, is they couldn't cover him.
No, and that's what we heard all spring too.
And when you get behind people and then you're open in front of people, and then Grayson Littleton, his only flag I've seen him have to get thrown on, that's a really good sign for a freshman wideout. If you're behind older players, you're open in front of older players, and a guy that was a dang near freshman All-American got flagged trying to cover you in the slot, that's a pretty good spot to be.
Grayson Littleton was a freshman All-American, in my opinion. I don't know what all he did and didn't make, but dude's a good ball player.
And the other thing that helps,
maybe a first-round pick, but he's a good ball player.
The other thing that helps a young receiver like Bishop, the situation he's walking into actually helps him because Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo are there. I mean,
the weight of the world is not on him.
No, and he's gonna get favorable matchups. Like he's not gonna face bracketed coverage.
Let me ask you this: is he as good a football player as Malachi Toney?
Boy, it certainly appears.
That's the freshman that took the world by storm at Miami, guys. If you're,
it certainly appears like. But here's the crazy thing, though, Bobby. I saw Malachi Toney in American Heritage. Remember he reclassed up.
Yeah.
And he was coming out of track, so he really wasn't full go. But when I went to see Dia Bell, and Toney was there, he was like I think he went Earl Thomas on people though. I think he went way beyond what people thought he was going to be, even though Earl redshirted. I'm just saying, like, there's certain recruits that just zip by, even with the college's expectations. I think he probably turned out better than the American Heritage staff would have thought he would as a freshman too. I think that he had maybe some things. He had the track times. He's had more of a stocky build, but it's the maturity and the
football IQ,
confidence.
Yeah. Football IQ and toughness. As a screen, I mean, he didn't do a lot downfield, by the way.
No.
He did a lot in the screen game. Not saying he's not capable downfield. But they used him on that swing screen to try to, or inside tunnel stuff. I mean, to just try to get him the ball in space. Yeah. And they did a nice job of it and accentuated it later in the season. I think it made them. It was definitely a big piece of their playoff run.
Yeah, but now, do I think Bishop's going to have that type of season? No. Tony walked into a situation where they needed a number 2 wideout, and he ended up being 2 and then 1.
Yeah, they did. That's exactly right. Like CJ Daniels was their guy down there. Yeah, that's not the same situation that Bishop's walking into.
No,
not at all.
Yeah,
but 35 catches, and you're saying Hank went with over 35 catches, and you're saying over 500 yards from scrimmage. That's pretty salty.
Yeah. Well, the thing I think about with him in terms of a all-purpose yards is that's a 70-yard end around, a couple of 70-yard catches, and you're at 210. I mean, then all you have to do is not fall down.
Let me ask you this: Is the guy that you like? I think of one guy when I think of Texas with Jermaine Bishop, because he's not like Xavier Worthy. He's different than Xavier. I think of Isaiah Bond a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe you get a quote unquote better football player, but an Isaiah Bond type with that speed and suddenness. Because you mentioned the end around, and I'm thinking that wicked play that Sark drew up against Florida, that kind of inside double reverse. You remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You could definitely
or just a swing past Isaiah Bond where he hits the sidelines and it's over.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did that against
UTSA. Yeah. I mean, you have 3 big plays.
So it's more. Wait, this is important because I think a lot of people thought, Jerry. I think a lot of people thought of Jermaine Bishop. Oh, is he like a Jaden Blue type or a Keelan Robinson type? How are they going to use him? And I think it's, to your point, I think it's more like Isaiah Bond.
Yeah,
it's more in that he's definitely a receiver. We know that, but as you try to get your mind around how Sark's going to use him, I think it's more Isaiah Bond than it is Xavier Worthy.
Yeah,
for lack of a better term.
Hey, bring back that Cohen Brown, Devin Duvernay, because I had a talk the other day with somebody, and Cohen Brown was mentioned as a guy who could be a versatile player for Texas down the line. Versatile meaning very good screen game because he's like a running back after the catch. We talk about those end around plays where you're looking for somebody to break an arm tackle and then get to the second level.
Yep.
I think Cohen Brown's different than Duvernay. Duvernay had magic hands, maybe as good a hands as any Texas receivers had. I mean, I don't think he dropped the ball his final year, right, and had 100 catches. I mean, 100 to 0. Okay, that's like perfection as a wide receiver. I think Cohen Brown is different. Quan Cosby. I think Cohen's going to be used from what I hear, in a multitude of ways down the line. Is kind of what the thinking is right now for him.
The thing with Cohen that I come back to, and having talked to some folks that were at scrimmages and outside of what we saw on our stuff, right, Jerry?
Yeah.
But actually talking to some folks that were there, high school coaches, et cetera. He split the defense multiple times on plays, like short inside throws. And if Sark goes to an RPO game that calls for that, and he can break that first tackle, he's got the speed to take it the distance. He's different. He's different than an Emmett Mosley in that regard.
Right.
Emmett Mosley has good speed. Emmett Mosley doesn't have take it to the house speed.
Yeah.
Cohen Brown has, like I said, juice a little bit. He's got that 10-5.
Yeah. He
10-6,
pushes
whatever it
through
was.
the ground amazingly with power through the ground. Yeah.
Good discussion on receivers this morning, I think.
It's going to be, I think Texas, I think they did a really, and obviously when you recruited Jermaine Bishop, you don't know at the time for sure he's going to play wide out, right? I guarantee you if this staff was intact the same it is now, Will Muschamp would put up a hell of a fight to try to right?
Yeah.
I think putting Jermaine Bishop on offense, I think, is a smart thing. By the way, it factors in the return game. You can run it in reverse on the reverse game, however you want to get in the ball. I think those guys are the Peter Warricks of the world. I'm not saying he's going to be that good, but those type of players are so valuable in college football.
If Will Muschamp were on the staff, if Will Muschamp would have been on the staff 2 years ago, would Nick Townsend be on offense right now?
Probably not.
That's my thought.
You probably have 9 sacks as an overhang linebacker this year too. But I think Texas did a pretty good job with that wide receiver class in 2026. We'll see. They all have to go do it. You have to go do it, obviously, with any of these guys. But I think we're going to look back and say that was a pretty good group.
You mentioned Chris. You didn't even mention Chris Stewart. He had a really
good route runner.
Yes.
Hey, the thing about Chris Stewart, here's what I was told that, and I know Chris Stewart's father's been on here occasionally. He has Chris's brother's at Missouri. What I was told about Chris Stewart that really impressed Steve Sarkisian, Chris Jackson, and those guys, and I think this is underrated, and this is where the rankings, our industry that Bobby and I have been in, can get skewed from time to time. What impressed Texas about Chris Stewart? He didn't flinch on competition. He didn't come back and say, well, how many, if I just play this position, how long till I play and how many targets you think? He didn't ask all question after question after question like that. Not that saying there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but when you're at a program with a lot of talent, I think those guys really get intrigued with guys that don't flinch initially. Say, hey, look, you aren't going to be guaranteed anything. This is going to be tough work here. And that includes you have to be physical blocking in this conference. And the guys that don't flinch on that, I think really impress coaching staffs. And what Chris Stewart did in those initial conversations with Texas, they were like, yeah, we can win with this guy.
They don't just impress coaches; they impress teammates.
Mm-hmm.
How you I could see that from Chris Stewart just by the way he practices. Hard practicer.
Yeah,
hard practice.
Well, we got more to talk about. We got some wide receiver questions we'll come back to in just a moment. But first, Jerry, I need you to tell everyone about Hayes City Store, and they got a Cinco de Mayo deal going on.
Oh, yes.
Scratch made Texas comfort food now with a twist. How about that? What do we have coming this soon? We have, it's May, Cinco de Mayo, right? Come celebrate with us at Hayes City Store. Street tacos, $6 frozen margaritas all day, both locations. That's Hayes City Store. That's Taste on Main, which is steaks and seafood too, owned by the same people, obviously. Cinco de Mayo celebration at Hayes City Store and Taste on Main. Again, all day, both locations, street tacos, $6 frozen margaritas, and much, much more. Hayes City Store and Taste on Main, both there south of Austin in the Hayes area, in the Buda area.
Love it.
Good stuff. $6 margaritas, can't beat that.
You do not get that in Nashville, Tennessee, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
I imagine the street tacos are much better
Yeah.
here than in Nashville. Just going to go out on a limb there.
Some would say the margaritas might be too.
All right, guys, I need to tell you all about Prize Picks as well today. And I'll say it like this. If you're sitting there watching games with nothing on them, you're leaving some entertainment on the table. Prize Picks just helps everything take everything up a notch, because now every possession matters. Every at-bat matters. You're not just watching, you're invested the whole way through. And obviously, there's a little upside in it for you, too, a chance to pad that wallet. It's super easy. No deep dives, no complicated setups. You're just picking more or less on player stats, points, yards, hits, assists, whatever you're locked into that. You build it, you submit it, and you're good. Takes maybe a minute to do that. And what I like most is the flexibility. You can ride one sport if you want, or you can bounce around basketball, baseball, hockey, golf, football, whatever it may be. Mix it all together. Whatever you're already watching, it fits right in. And today we're going to go with some baseball action here. As you can see on the screen, we got Paul Skeens with more than 5.5 strikeouts. He's actually averaging 5.8 his last 5 outings, and he averages nearly 8 against St. Louis per game, despite never beating them. We're also going to take Jose Altuve to please the Astro fans out there to have more than half a total base. Honestly, stats don't really back this up. Altuve's only reached in 1 game out of his last 5, but I figure that means he's due. So I'm going to go out on a limb there and pick him. And that's the whole deal. You trust your gut, you lock in your play, and you let it ride. And Prize Picks is available in all 50 states, including right here in the great state of Texas. So if you haven't jumped in yet, now's the time. Download the app, use code HMA, play $5, and they'll give you $50 in lineups instantly. Code HMA. 5 gets you 50. Simple as that. And as always, play smart, play responsibly, play Prize Picks.
Hey, Blake, that Jose Altuve one hurts me. Obviously, I'm a Houston Astros fan and have been for life because I grew up there. He's hitting 248 right now. I know we don't talk about other sports much because this is on Texas football, but he has been a long time face of that franchise and off to the worst start of his career, actually. So hopefully he's not on. I know he's on the downhill slide. We all do.
Yeah.
We all reach that, you know what I mean? That level of the diminishing returns. I just hope somehow, some way he has a couple more years, 3 more years.
To get the 3K hits.
Yeah, to get the 3,000 hits.
Bring back the heart monitor. I don't care. Get him the 3,000 hits. Hey, by the way, arrow pits always makes me laugh. Defeated a swarm of giant flying cockroaches at 2. First time in Lubbock?
Or Norman.
Oh, goodness. We're going to get to some other items to discuss here. Like I said, we'll come back. I know y'all have a lot of wide receiver questions. We will come back to those. But Greg Sankey, actually, guys, was talking to Paul Feinbaum, longtime friend of the show, and he gave an update, and I want to play that for you. It's about a minute.
So I was asked on the way out, did you talk about like eliminating Tuesday ranking shows? We really did not. We talked about the schedule of those shows, but we did not talk about whether those exist or not. We had a brief conversation about format, really understanding the timing of decisions that relate to the 2027 season. So by the end of November, I think December 1st is the actual date, we'd have to make a decision if we vary from 12. And last year decided to not vary from the 12-team format. I think those were the 2 kind of key issues, and the discussion around bowl games. So there are some differences. It's interesting next year, the opportunity for the 1 seed to pick its path. The location of its quarterfinal bowl and the location of its semifinal bowl, and then the 2 seed to have a quarterfinal bowl option and obviously placed in the semifinal bowl. So we talked about those logistical issues. Really good TV success, really good attendance success last year, and how do we continue to build? Those are the real key topics.
He dropped a bomb there at the end.
Yeah.
He buried the lead.
Yeah.
You go in as the number 1 seed. Say you're 12-0, undefeated, or 13-0, and won the conference championship game. You get to choose not only your quarterfinal position, but your semifinal bowl. So if you're Texas, you may choose your quarterfinal in Austin.
Yep.
Right. And then I think you have to choose a bowl game to go to in the semifinal.
Sugar, where all the fans can drive 4 hours.
Or Cotton.
Or Cotton.
Yeah. It's a rotating basis now between all the bowls, which one gets which. But that is meaningful, in my opinion. Very meaningful.
Yep.
If you get the number 1 seed. Now you can play in your own backyard all the way into the finals.
Yep.
So I actually think this is a great decision by the playoff committee to do that. Reward that a little bit more. Give them more value for having that level of
If you earn it.
of superiority in the season. Yeah. And even the other one is the second seed gets that first choice too.
Yeah.
Quarterfinal, and then the second bowl choice. So I'm good with that. I think that was a big piece. The other two elements that he mentioned, a year ago, they extended the deadline to go from 12 to 16 teams or 24 or whatever they were going to do into January almost. Sankey said, we're not doing that this year. If we expand, we have to make that decision by December 1. Okay. And then the other thing is there was some talk like, what's the use of these award shows every Tuesday night where I say award show, but really it's a ranking show. What's the value of that? Because frankly, Notre Dame was always ahead of Miami by multiple teams, always ahead of Miami, always ahead of Miami. And then the very last one, Miami eclipsed Notre Dame. And so it led Notre Dame fans to this false sense of security, and they didn't get into playoffs. So what is the value of those things? And are people going to tune those out now? Apparently, Sankey said, well, we didn't even talk about eliminating those. We actually said we may change the time of when we announce them. So what's he going to do? Like, let's do it at the, 7:30 or 7:15 instead of 6. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they would bicker over that, but the December 1 time frame is big frame is big to know when they go, and then or when they can go to from 12 to 16 or 24, and then also the placement of the actual bowl teams in their semifinal and quarterfinal games if you're a number 1 or number 2 seed. Well, Notre Dame should have to join a conference. I hear that from 90% of college football fans. Should Notre Dame have to join a conference?
They're eventually going to have to.
Well, I don't think people want it to happen eventually. They want it to happen now.
I know, and I get it. Should they? Yes. And here's my reason why, even more so than people. I think people look at this Notre Dame schedule of playoff. That's not even what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at with the why, Bobby, is they get to keep everything. They get to keep everything they earn. And so they essentially have their own TV.
Oh, yeah, they do.
But then when they go to the college football playoff, they aren't sharing with anybody. That's all going into their pocket. And so that is the thing I look at with them. I'm like, well, look, nothing's fair, right? They've earned that with their history of success. But the two unfair teams in college football right now are Notre Dame and Texas Tech. And that's just the bottom line. Notre Dame their schedule is so ridiculous. They eliminated even having USC, their longtime rival. I mean, they should walk to 12-0 this year. Walk to it. Okay. Texas Tech is spending 3 times the amount of anybody else in the Big 12 on a football team. Okay. Yeah.
Those two teams should walk to the college football playoff. Now, Brendan Sorsby's doing his best not to allow that to happen for Tech.
Yeah.
But the point being, those two teams right now have a decided advantage. Even in the ACC, Miami is spending more than anybody else, but Florida still spends a bunch. Louisville still spends a bunch.
Yeah.
There's nobody in the Big 12 spending half of what Texas Tech does on its roster. In the SEC, you could say, well, Texas and Texas A&M spend a lot, but guess what? So do the other teams, all within 10 to 25% of those teams.
Yeah.
So the two cakewalks right now, in my opinion, are Notre Dame and Texas Tech. I mean, look, Wisconsin, they haven't been any good. I guess SMU late. They're going to play SMU in November in South Bend. Miami, still 10-2, easy. They're in. Who do they have other? They're going to beat BYU. I mean, there's so much more.
If we're saying Sorsby's out for the year.
No, I'm talking about Notre Dame here.
Oh, Notre Dame.
Look at Notre Dame. They have two real games, in my opinion. They have Miami and SMU. And that's week 10. They're 10-2, easy.
10. I'm not sure 10-2 gets them in.
Didn't last year.
I guess by the new rules, they
automatically get in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at, Texas Tech. Is Texas Tech 12-0 with that schedule?
Well, here's who has a harder
12-0 if KJ Lacey is their quarterback? I think so.
Who has a harder schedule, Notre Dame or Tech?
Notre Dame.
Harder.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Notre Dame. Arizona may be good this year.
No.
Houston may be good this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
They get both of them in Lubbock, by the way. Anyways, I'm sorry to go on that diatribe, but I do believe Notre Dame and Texas Tech are the two teams right now that have the clearest path to the college football playoffs each and every year.
Yeah.
And it's not because Tech is necessarily spending more than Texas or A&M or it's because their competition spends so little. Tell me one team there that spends more than $20 million on their roster that Texas Tech will play this year. None.
No, none. The closest one will end up being Arizona State, and they won't be there.
And Baylor and TCU aren't.
No. And I bet Arizona State's spending more than Baylor and TCU right now. They had to get Kenny Dillingham to stay.
Yeah, but that's my point. Is those two have an unfair path. The ACC, that's a lot of ACC teams. Might as well join the conference. They have a scheduling deal with the ACC, Cisco. But even the ACC is much more equitable than the Big 12. I mean, Miami spends a lot of money. Florida State spends a lot of money. Louisville spends a lot of money. North Carolina's trying to spend money.
Yeah.
Anyways, and BYU has not been all in football like they were in basketball, or like they have been in basketball.
Here's the thing for Tech: if Sorsby's out the whole year, which he should be, do they make the playoff?
Yes. Who's
I
going to beat
don't
them?
know. I don't know. I don't think it's a lock because
if KJ Lacey is their quarterback, Tech would be in the playoffs.
Right, but they have Will Hammond, who's going to miss 3 games coming off ACL. You don't know if he's actually what he's going to look like when he gets back, right? And they should. I'll say this: they should, but I do think they're in question a little bit more without Sorsby because Will Hammond's coming off ACL. And what does that do to your team? What does that do in your locker room and your program for a year? They're gonna go through something that a lot of teams don't have to go through.
I think the team probably likes Will Hammond more than they like Brennan Sorsby. I mean,
they
Hammond
do now.
He's been there for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So maybe they rally behind him, but
how many Tech players have been there 3 or 4 years? 10.
None that go in the NFL draft.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think without Sorsby, if Hammond's kind of coming off that, I think that's going to be interesting for them. I think they should make it, but gets more interesting.
Notre Dame's going to be 10-2 and in the playoffs at worst. 11-1.
I think they're 11-1 at worst because they're really talented. They're really good too. I mean, people are going to down them because of their schedule, but it's like people that say the UConn women, well, they don't play anybody. The guys won 12 national championships. On some level, if you're good, you're good. I think Notre Dame's going to be good this year. Now, am I saying they'd for sure be in a college football playoff if they played in the Big Ten or SEC? No, I'm not. But I do think they're legitimate good this year, and that will prove out in the NFL draft. They got a bunch of guys. They got 7, 8, 9 guys that are going to go in the top 3 rounds, and maybe the best corner in the country, a first-round quarterback, multiple linemen on both sides of they're built to be really, really good. But their schedule is going to be what's talked about the most. And you know what? They should have to go 11-1 on that schedule. If they go 10-2, they should take the hit.
Yeah, because they only have 2 games.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that even pose issues.
Yeah, they're just too good up front and a corner. I'm telling you, the corner they got opposite. They're both from Texas, by the way. Both the corners at Notre Dame from Texas. People have missed the other corner is DJ McKinney, who transferred from Colorado, who Texas took a look at in the portal 2 years ago. That is the brother of, Bobby, the safety corner, the nickel corner from Houston Lamar that played at Texas. Different last name. I just lost his name. That's his little brother. He's going to be an NFL draft pick too, and maybe like a top 3 or 4.
Bonnie or
no. Later came in Herman years. Guys, chat, help me out.
Hill.
Not Jameson. Jameson's teammate. I can't. His name's escaping me right now. I'm getting old. I've covered too many of these guys. Not Jameson, the other guy that came in with him. We'll get it in a second.
Yeah,
you'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's his little brother, and he is Cook.
Anthony Cook. Yeah,
Anthony Cook. It's his little brother, and he is dang good, man. He is dang good.
All right. Well, we got some more we're going to talk about, and we got to get to some questions as well. But first, Bobby, why don't you tell everyone how they can answer their mobile questions with Mint Mobile?
Yeah, absolutely. Mint Mobile is there for every group or person right now that wants to get a good plan going on their wireless. If you're ready to stop paying more than you have to, new customers can make the switch today to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 per month. Switch now at mintmobile.com/OnTexas. That's mintmobile.com/OnTexas. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for a 12-month plan, $15 month equivalent per month equivalent. Taxes and fees are extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes, and it may slow when the network is busy. Capable devices required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. Additional terms apply. See mintmobile.com. Again, that's mintmobile.com/OnTexas. They do have a 7-day money-back guarantee. They have customer satisfaction ratings in the mid-90s. Mint Mobile makes it easy to try and see why people don't go back. And that's, again, that limited time offer for 50% off 3, 6, or 12-month plans of unlimited premium wireless for new subscribers.
And I'm going to tell everyone about one of our other sponsors. Of course, that's Cheers. And if you ever had one of those nights where you're like, I didn't even do anything crazy, but somehow the next morning still hits you and it hits you hard. I'm talking a couple of drinks out at dinner. You drink water, you go to bed at a normal time, but you still wake up feeling foggy and having low energy. Well, I have, and that's why I tried Cheers Restore. I'll be honest, I was skeptical at first, but I took it after my last drink. I went to sleep. The next morning, I felt normal. It honestly caught me off guard how clear-headed I was. I slept good. I got up ready to roll. And Cheers helps your body process alcohol while you sleep. It supports your liver. It helps smooth out that next day feeling. So instead of waking up feeling rough, you feel like you had way less than you actually did. So if you're going to have a drink, do it smarter. Take Cheers Restore after your last drink or before bed and wake up feeling at least 50% better or your money back. And for a limited amount of time, our listeners get 20% off your entire order with code ONTexas at cheershealth.com. That's cheershealth.com, code ONTexas for 20% off. And after you order, let them know that On Texas Football sent you. Well, let's talk recruiting for a moment here.
I'm excited about this one, Jerry.
Yeah.
I'm excited for a number of reasons.
We've had a lot of questions during the high school football season about Kaysen Jammer, the son of Quentin Jammer, nephew of Quandre Diggs, obviously. I actually saw this kid as a freshman play against Friendswood in a freshman football game because I was over there watching a a kid of a friend. Case and Jammer, Texas. Mark Orfe went by Monday to take a look at Case and Jammer, and I'm glad they did. Look, he is not, and I have a real interesting tie to Case and Jammer right now from a recruiting standpoint. He's run 10.7 in the 100 meters, right? So he's 5'9", 175. He is not going to pass your eye test. He is not as big as Quentin. He is similar size to Quandre, but not built the same way. But this kid's a football player, and he is a really good football. There you see, you can play him anywhere. He's physical. He's tough. He's fast. He is super competitive. And it's interesting kind of who he reminds me of. He reminds me of a guy I saw in high school a few years ago named Chandler Rivers at Beaumont United. And Chandler Rivers was just drafted in the NFL after going to Duke. I think Mike Elko signed him at Duke, and then he didn't transfer to A&M. He decided to stay at Duke academically. A lot of people tried to get Chandler Rivers into the portal, but he stuck at Duke. But it's interesting because Case and Jammer is visiting Duke. He's also visiting Boston College. He's also visiting Baylor. His recruitment is very similar to Chandler Rivers too. And he's an interesting guy. I'm glad Texas went to take a look at him. Bobby, with the 108, 105 scholarships, it's a guy like this that that I would take every day because he's just a football player. I don't care if he's 5'9.5" or whatever he is, but his track times are there. But he is just a tough Angleton kid. They're tough. They're ballers. They're competitive. Whether even that was DJ Monroe on the track, he just didn't have the size in football, but he was fast and he was competitive. This guy he's different, but it reminds me of Chandler Rivers so much, and how many schools wish they'd taken Chandler Rivers. He just got drafted, but he was 5'9", 175 coming out of high school. Could you play him at nickel? Can you play him at safety? What can you really do with him? You can win with him. I know that. So I was glad that Texas went by and took a look at Case and Jammer. I want guys like this on my football team, man. I just do. It doesn't mean I think he's going to be Chandler Rivers and be a draft pick if he were to end up at a place like Texas, but I think he impacts winning. I think you want these guys in the bunker with you in SEC games.
Yeah,
capacity.
I think it's interesting. He kind of looks a little bit like that corner at Indiana last year, right?
Ons.
Yeah, that made those big plays and big moments.
Yeah,
for Indiana. I would say this: he doesn't have to play corner.
No,
like people look at a safety and say a 5'9" safety. What is Quandre Diggs?
Right.
He's a 5'9", 5'10" safety.
Earl Thomas.
Yeah. What are they? I mean, safeties don't have to be like if people want a Jelani McDonald. Don't get me wrong. They want 6'2" and long armed but some of the best safeties in the league aren't these big guys. They're ones that see the play before they happen.
Yeah.
That's how a Michael Taft gets drafted.
Yeah.
He sees the play before it gets happening. He's not a big guy.
No.
And so if Case and Jammer, Quentin's son, is one of those guys, and I do agree with going to 105, to me, it makes these sorts of decisions easy. It should make these sorts of decisions.
Right.
It doesn't mean it will, because we all know how the world works. I mean, not everything is cut and dry as we try to make it sometimes, but these sorts of decisions, I think, should be easy.
And I want to say this.
When you have tape like this, Jerry.
Yeah. And look, I want to mention this. Texas did not offer him the other day when they were there. He's got 4 OVs. He's got Duke, Baylor, Maryland, Boston College. I don't know if Maryland's in there. There's somebody else in there. But the bigger schools are taking a look at him. But obviously the bigger school that would have the impact would be Texas. But I want guys that impact winning, and they don't always have to be starters to impact winning. These guys they're valuable football players. And you know what? If they race past your expectations, then they race past your expectations if they end up being a starter in that Chandler Rivers level player. But nobody thought Chandler Rivers was going to be that coming out of high school. And you look at him now.
Jordan Johnson-Rebel's not super big either.
Yeah.
At safety.
Yeah. Yeah. UT for Life says all jammers are welcome. That's kind of where I come out. If I have 105 scholarships, I want this guy in my program.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to find. The thing nowadays, it's hard to find guys that it'll mean everything. Jackson Cook is one of those. So watch Jackson Cook in the future. That wearing the jersey every day means as much to them as any amount of NIL money they can make. Those are hard to find. They're harder to find. And if you can find some of those guys, I think they're all. Oh, Utah's his other visit. Thank you, Marcus. So think about this. He's visiting Utah. What's Utah been known for in Texas, Bobby? Morgan Scalley, who's now the head coach, coming into Texas, getting defensive players that weren't highly ranked and ended up being really good. Remember, who was committed to Utah that flipped to Texas? You're all Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year a few years ago, right? Number of guys. Duke has got a guy out of Texas recently that was undersized that ends up being an NFL player. Baylor, they do a pretty good job evaluating defensive players. I'm hoping Texas makes a move there because I think he warrants being on the Texas team. I think he'd help you win games, in whatever capacity it is. I'll always stand on the table for guys like that.
Hi, Jerry. Up next, you actually mentioned this yesterday, and we said we would get to it today. But Todd McShay came out with a 2027 NFL mock draft. 6 Longhorns, fellas. 6 in the first round in McShay's first. Arch Manning, number 1 to the Jets. Colin Simmons, number 6 to the Raiders. Cam Coleman, number 15 to Jacksonville. Trevor Gooseby, number 16 to Cincinnati. Rasheem Biles, 28 to the Chargers. And Ryan Wingo, 32 to the Rams.
I think this is interesting. I brought this up because people ran the numbers and all these early mock drafts are like an early high school player ranking, right? They're going to change. But McShay's had the most accurate drafts in recent years, ahead of Kuiper, and then the other guys fall below that. So McShay right now is number 1 amongst those for whoever looks at all that stuff. Very interesting. Now, this is a big old limb to have 6 players in the first round. How many times that happened? Maybe twice in modern times. But Bobby, I think the biggest surprise on this list, if it actually happened, would it be Biles because of his size or Wingo because of his inconsistent hands so far in his career? But if Wingo went in the first round, that means he made a big jump. Biles to me would just be teams getting over being 6'1", 220, realizing guys like that in the NFL are having 150 tackles nowadays.
Yeah, my big one would be Biles for that very reason. That doesn't mean you can be a first-round pick. I mean, that there's a reason linebackers, unless they are, there's a reason they don't go that high right now. Wingo would not surprise me if he has that kind of season. It would surprise me if he has that kind of season that's a first-round season, though.
Mm-hmm.
So but physically, him being a first-round, I said this from the minute he stepped on campus. He's as impressive physically as any receiver Texas has signed since Roy Williams. I mean, he's 6'2", he's 200 pounds and runs like the wind.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's always played like that. Now, hopefully this is his coming out party this year. And we can see that run after the catch aspect that we talked about earlier in this show. But look, those first 4 to me are no-brainers. So barring injury, 4. I would put Jelani McDonald above the other 2. Actually. And so, and I hear you about Todd McShay, blah, blah. None of these guys are extraordinarily accurate early.
It's impossible to be.
Yeah. And so I guarantee you Brennan Sorsby was on this list a week ago. So I feel like from that standpoint, beyond that first 4, it's a dice roll, and it should be. And it's going to, And actually, it's different than a dice. It's not just a dice roll. These guys are actually going to go decide. They're going to go decide it. Who goes in the first round? If Jelani McDonald comes out and plays like a bad mamma jamma, he's going to go in the first round. If Brian Wingo all of a sudden catches fire because Cam Coleman's taking people away from him and runs away from the world, then he's got a chance. It doesn't drop passes. He's got a chance.
Yeah.
So the only one that I question heavily is Biles, and that has nothing necessarily to do with his production. I don't know that him going in the first round is actually in his hands. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. I don't think that he's that guy physically. Doesn't mean he can't be a Butkus winner.
Yeah. But so one thing I want to bring up, we brought this up earlier, but if this happens, we win national championship. Ohio State thought the same thing. It's definitely not a guarantee. They had 4 of the top 12 picks.
Yep.
And on that team were also Jeremiah Smith and Sandon. They didn't win it, so it doesn't mean you win it. I think it gives you more margin for error.
I would say this too. I mean, in that same mock draft, I looked at it. There were 4 Ohio State players in that mock draft.
Oh yeah,
which means on September 12th, Todd McShay is going to have a third of the first round on the field at the same time. So that's going to be as talented a matchup as we've seen in a while.
Yeah. Dave actually asked, "What is Todd McShay doing?" He runs a scouting service.
Used to be with ESPN.
Yeah. He's saying since he got let go by ESPN, but he's been doing the same thing in the private sector world. But he has a podcast out there, and he's of all those guys that do this, he's been the most accurate the last 3 years. Doesn't mean he's the best. You can be runs, and this stuff is impossible. It's really hard, especially early.
All right, Bobby, before we get to our last couple of questions for the day, tell everyone about Vaughn Lane one last time, please.
I absolutely can do that. Your seat is already taken care of. Look, booking a flight, paying your ticket, and then finding out you don't actually have a seat, that's hogwash. That's what some airlines are doing right now. Lowest fares don't come with a seat assignment. So you either wait until check-in and hope for the best, or you pay up $80, sometimes more, just to know where you're sitting. They're charging for bags now, too. It's like a subscription service for frustration. Here's the alternative. Vaughn Lane, your seat already taken care of, a big oversized leather seat in a cabin with only 22 of them. Your bags, bring them, no charge. TSA doesn't exist. You board at a private terminal inside a nice hotel, and from there it's complimentary Wi-Fi powered by Starlink, snacks, drinks, hot towel service, and meals on select routes. It's what flying was supposed to feel like. Vaughn Lane has also added more departure times between Houston and San Antonio and Fort Worth and Austin, so there are more options to fit your schedule. They serve Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, Nashville, Memphis, Atlanta, and Knoxville. Book at vaughnlane.com. Use code OTF26 for $20 off your first trip. Vaughn Lane, your private jet on wheels. Thank you very much for your ongoing sponsorship of On Texas Football.
Thank you, Bobby. And like I said, we got time for just a question or two here. Let's take Nacho Adventure 89. Our defense is going to have to play more cover 2 to prevent Wingo and Coleman from beating them and hope to force us to march down the field.
Cover 4. That's why the run game is going to be so important in 2026.
I think it depends on your talent level on defense, at defensive back too. What you're comfortable. Like Ohio State can, if they want to, Devin Sanchez can go man to man against anybody Texas has, and I'm sure they got somebody on the other side that has that capability as well. A lot of it's going to depend on how good your defensive personnel is on some level and how well you rush the passer. But I agree with Bob. I think
they're going to.
Yeah, Texas needs to be able to run the ball on first downs better.
They will definitely try to do that because Arch likes the deep ball. Sark likes the deep ball.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a 50-50 guy now, and Coleman. Mosley may be that guy. I mean, I think they're going to play it. They'll see a lot of that, make you try to march the ball down the field. But that's actually a good question for something that I was listening to the other day. How the new thing in college football, because these defenses have become so adept at creating negative plays to stall drives, has been what Sark has been talking about and trying to prepare for, and that's creating explosive plays. Sark is leaning into that right now.
Yeah.
And that's apparently the thing that the NFL is looking into as well, with the guys over at, whether it's in Kansas City with Pat Mahomes or down at Miami with McDaniel when he was there. So they are looking for explosive plays right now. And Sark with his personnel is in that category. He's got the right pieces.
And Lee Chadwell, end with this one. Over under for the Texas offense, 3,800 yards and 35 touchdowns this year.
Are we talking 12 games?
Quarterback.
If it's 12 games, I'm going under on the passing yards.
Yeah, that would be okay. That's like 225,
Because Sark
325 a game.
Sark traditionally wants to run at 52% of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at his numbers, he wants to run at 52 to 53% of the time. And I think I would take the under on yards in 12 games.
I would
they're going to be able to run it better.
That's what, 320 a game?
Yeah.
In 12 games. I don't think I'd take the under, Lee.
And I'm going to do one more here for honor. Is there any world where Bo Masco could sneak into the first round?
Yes. We have 48 pass breakups and 15 practices this spring.
Y'all realize how absurd that is, by the way?
Now, guys weren't in, right? But if he goes out and performs at a high level this year, I would say this. What Manny Muhammad just went 4th round, 124th pick. If Bo Masco's spring translates to the season, he's going higher than that. He's going to make more plays on the ball.
Just get after.
If Bo Masco makes plays on the ball like he did this spring, Bobby, then he's got a chance.
Just Texas needs to get after the quarterback.
Yeah, he's got a chance.
Those guys will eat if they can get after the quarterback.
The other thing that he's got going for him, he's just as good a nickel as corner. That's going to help him, I think, in the NFL draft, where people can say this guy's just as good here as he is here.
All right, y'all. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by Vaughn Lane. We want to thank them along with Cheers, Mint Mobile, Prize Picks, and Hayes City Store for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, what do you have for everyone later?
Well, right now on TexasFootball.com, actually, Jerry started an Ask Me Anything thread. So
ask us.
Ask us. I'm sorry. Ask us anything thread. So if you get a chance, go over there and have a question that did not get answered on this live stream and want it answered, make sure you go post over there. Use the code OTFOG if you're not a subscriber or a member to be able to ask those questions. Again, that's on TexasFootball.com. Promo code OTFOG. Also, we'll be back a little bit later today. Rod and Jeff Howe are going to be talking more Longhorn football. And then tonight, we've got the live stream as well. All week long, we've got content coming. Tomorrow, we have Barry Trammell from the Tulsa World coming on to talk OU football. One of the things we're going to do this offseason now is talk to folks that are at other schools that that Texas is going to be interested in. We'll start that process tomorrow with Barry Trammell. So hope you guys can join us for that a little bit.
Yeah, Blake, I wanted to mention on the basketball portal, Texas still has the one more backup center. Prices are ridiculous right now. Texas is in no hurry for a minor role player. Mikey Lewis begins, even though he's committed and signed with Texas. His visit is this weekend. Elijah Freeman will be next week. Those guys have already signed, though. But some of these guys just visit after decisions are made. But Texas has one more portal spot, but they're going to go slow on it because the asking prices are ridiculous for big men right now, especially guys that aren't going to play a major role. So they're going to kind of chill out and let things play out.
Well, we hope you all have an outstanding day today. We'll be back tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Hug 'em.